right, welcome to the Berlin Select Board open meeting. Today is Monday, August 12th. Call to order at the meeting at 6:30. As a reminder, open session public minutes are being recorded. Your name, your image and voice will be recorded. Doop. All right, so first up are the minutes. Any questions, comments on those?
I had sent a few suggested changes to Dee, and I believe she made them. It was just deleting something that didn't make sense.
I did.
Okay. So I'd make a motion to approve with those changes in the June 24th. The 29th was fine.
Do we have a second?
Yep.
All right. Motion and a second. Any other questions? Not hearing any. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, boom, aye, boom, chakalaka. General public comment, you're coming up later, so.
I was just gonna,
Oh, look at that, just in time. Does the public have any comment?
I was gonna point out, just for the record, that, as I said earlier, I'm on call tonight. And so I'm half watching my phone for anything that goes on. There's a tiny but not zero chance that I need to step out to take care of something, but
No worries.
that is what I'm looking at my phone for. That is the app that's currently up, so hopefully I
Okay.
don't need to touch anything.
And
except
for
refresh.
anybody, who's watching, you'll notice Kristen and Dee are not here, so I am manning my laptop and that laptop, so if anything, this could be a really fun meeting. All right, first up are the fire and police chiefs, but since fire's not here yet, come on, Mr. Eric. Well, do you want to wait? I mean, we can plow through some other stuff.
Oh, it's all right. You
Okay.
can Work on his.
All right,
I'll go. All right, so I have two to give. The first one's gonna be for June. We handled 1,202 calls for service, 18 cases involving criminal charges, 18 motor vehicle crashes, 8 with injuries, 277 motor vehicle stops, 111 citations issued. As you know, as you probably already know, CSX completed the Five Corners intersection, and they reopened the road within 48 hours versus the 72 they originally planned, so that was good. Let's see, our drone unit was deployed to the city of Marlborough for a missing swimmer on June 23rd. Unfortunately, ended tragically. But it was nice to be able to have the resources and offer resources to our neighboring community. Officer Lehman McDonald continued their field training through June, and they also attended week-long crisis intervention training. And ultimately, both were released on their own July 19th, so they're now part of the rotation. As far as post-certification, Detective Stringone and I were the last two in the department to be certified. They did it alphabetically, so we are all now certified through post. Let's see, June 11th, Sergeant Goulding and myself, we accompanied the 5th grade class to Georges Island. We try to figure out how many years we've been doing it.
Mhm.
That's why I put decades. I've been doing it with Sergeant Goulding since, over 30 years now, so, yeah, that's.
oh, that's a nice
You're
thing for
not
the
old
town.
enough.
I am, yeah, when I started thinking about that, that's why I just put down decades versus how many actual years. But with Berlin, I think it's been 25 years.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. Traffic Safety Advisory Committee, we met, we had a request for a stop sign at the intersection of Lancaster Road and Randall Road to make it a two-way stop at a three-way intersection. Basically, it was denied. The reason for the stop sign was for speed, which we're not allowed to do. Not allowed to put up stop signs to curb speeding. Plus, logistically, DPW nor fire was on board with it, nor myself. Last meeting I was here, we talked about the new cruiser, and I asked for more money. I was able to come in under cost. I think out of the 2,500, I think there's 700 or 800 I needed. So.
Good.
So that worked out. And yeah, and I told you about the next time frame for the next car. So we're looking at probably next May or June for our next car that used to come in 12 weeks. So let's see, July, 1,067 calls for service, 20 cases involving criminal charges, 20 motor vehicle crashes, 8 with injuries, 182 stops with 64 citations issued. As I stated before, Officer Lehman McDonald completed field training and are currently in their rotations. The drone unit was active in July, for an armed robbery in Hudson, missing an elderly person in Northborough, shoplifters at Highland Commons, and a missing 11-year-old boy on the tracks off of Allen Road. Come to find out, the 11-year-old boy was found an hour later, about 7 miles away from where we were. So
Wow.
it goes to show you eyewitness reports are not accurate. So
Wow.
we deployed a lot of assets to that. And July 21st, we had a boat on Gates Pond, which we deployed the drone for. Obviously, it's they call it a pond, but it's like a large lake, so we utilize that there. New cruiser's finished, just waiting, now I'm just waiting for the registry. The insurance is all taken care of, just waiting for the registry paperwork so we can get that into the rotation. As we know, in July, we had the unfortunate incident off of Highland Street. We had great help from the state police and Berlin Fire and EMS. And can't say enough. But that's it. The ACO report for July should be in hopefully this week, and I'll forward that to you.
Okay. Do you see speeding or traffic issues going up in town or more around town, like on 495?
It's going up nationwide, everywhere.
Is it?
Everywhere, yeah. And, a lot of that is the lack of officers, truth be told. I mean, we're all wearing multiple hats, and as much as we try to get out there, on average, we're lucky if we're out there 2 hours a shift out of an 8-hour shift doing traffic. So, we're working to correct that through our hiring process, and, hopefully have somebody else on board soon. And, but even having them on board soon, if everything works out, it's still probably gonna be March before they're on the road by themselves.
Are you full?
No.
No, you're still short?
We're not short, we're into number 10 and number 11. That's where we're at right now. We're into 10 and 11, and of course, we put out our advertisements where we used to get 100, 120 applicants. We're lucky if we get 10. So, it's a process. It's a process, we can't lower our standards, especially with post. There's still requirements that we have to meet for the state, so.
And it's not a town thing, it's not a state thing, it's a.
It's a nationwide thing. I mean, you look at every city department's advertising across the country. I just saw a posting for Dallas.
Wow,
Yeah.
so it's, once it goes out, it goes.
It goes everywhere. It goes everywhere. I've done background checks for Detroit, on people. I've had a request from Detroit PD, did a public records request, maybe about 3 months back.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just the person ended up having, not an incident, but an interaction with one of our officers, and it's in the system, so. People are traveling, and everybody's poaching. Sign-on bonus is up to 20 grand now. Fees here.
Well, you see that for highway, when you drive down the highway,
Yeah.
$20,000 sign-on
Yeah.
bonus, give me a
Yeah.
plow driver, yeah.
Yep, so, it's a nationwide issue that we're trying to address. And, I was actually just talking to a firm that helps departments, with their advertisements and recruiting. So, no cost yet, but, I'm trying to see what we can do differently and trying to attract people.
That's all you can do. Any other questions for Chief Shatner?
No, that was,
You covered it.
All right, well, don't go away, because we'll need you for a couple other items.
All right.
FIA has grown considerably since we've seen her.
Yes.
And you'll notice that I am wearing the Jax shirt in
Yes.
support, so a pink FIA shirt in October
Might be a good addition.
would be a wonderful addition, and then I can just like rotate my shirts every month. We'd be
There you
good to
go. I'll look into that.
Okay.
So I apologize for being late. I was in class today and stuff. I got out early. I wasn't expecting to be able to make it today, so.
Don't
Teeth
eat
and
the
toy.
microphone.
Teeth and toy.
You were doing so good today, too.
Yeah, Kristen, hi, can we have $20 more for ARPA money, because Via ate the microphone? Okay.
Before you have the report from July. It identifies the 74 emergency responses we did for the month. It identifies the fire prevention activity. They've remained pretty constant for our activity. We're seeing a slight increase over what we did for call volume last year. We had several fires that occurred in residential buildings, and one of them was a fire in a multifamily unit that we had. And the different causes that we had for those fires were, 2 of them were from unattended cooking fires, so just kind of warning people to pay attention to your stove and have a fire extinguisher and a means of putting out a fire. The other one was from a lithium-ion battery, and it was a battery that was left in for too long that overheated. So we're starting to see those, and that seems to be a trend across the country. There's starting to be more fires that occur with the lithium-ion batteries. We posted something on our Facebook page kind of alluding to that from the State Fire Marshal. There's also a video on there from a fire that occurred in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is a home camera that shows a dog chewing one of the battery packs that charges cell phones. It's an interesting one to watch because when it fails, it shows you how quickly it actually catches fire and how quickly that fire spreads. Unfortunately, they lost the house, but the 2 dogs did escape, so there were no injuries to the dogs. But I bring that out just as a fire safety, public safety announcement. I also wanted to point out, smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors are critical. And I'm sure Chief Shartner, before I got here, went over some of the calls for the month of July, with one of them having a critical incident stress debriefing that took place with the staff of the fire and police department. I'm pleased to announce that we have a conditional offer for a new full-time firefighter EMT that's been extended. I hope to have that offer completed, signed, and the candidate in the process in the next 2 weeks to onboard. Unfortunately, July saw 53 open shifts for the month that we had, so this is tracking high for the department. I'm not sure if it's just because of the summer or if it's just that trend that we're in, but since I've been here, we've had a lot of open shifts. So I'm looking at coming up with some creative ways to kind of cover that and look at staffing and increasing our staffing around the clock. Training for the month of July was held on a Saturday and consisted of utilizing a building set to be demolished that was donated to the department to do destructive training. We utilized it with smoke machines and simulated fires. We stretched hose lines, vented windows, vented the roof, and breached some of the walls. And that training is really as close as we can get to real-life training without actually setting a fire in the building. It's invaluable to us. I was also happy that we were able to actually partner with some of our mutual aid partners that showed up from Boylston and Northborough to also participate in that. They had a huge benefit from that as well. And it kind of builds that collaboration and mutual aid teamwork that we do. There are 3 new stores that will be opening up at the Highland Commons in the coming months. X-Golf, Pliable, and the Paper Store are all going to be opening up there. They've submitted their plans and permits for review, and they hope to start the construction in there in the next coming weeks. And Fia really wants to say hi to you guys. Again, for the home safety check programs, if anybody wants one of those, reach out to us. You can call the public safety admin, and she will schedule that. I'll also say that exists for the car safety seat program as well. I forgot to put that in here, but I want to highlight that every month as well. Did you already cover the radio project?
No, I didn't.
The radio tower project is moving forward. Green Mountain Communications, who's our vendor, they started replacing the cables and antennas on Taylor Road. They got those up, and they're in place. And hopefully they're going to be going to Coburn Road as soon as we can get an agreement signed with American Tower. Basically, when that was put up there, 30 years ago, they were basically done on a handshake. Nowadays, they require an agreement. There's no money exchange with that, but it's just so that our equipment's up there, they know where it is, and we know the process in order to go up there and change it. So hopefully once that's done, they'll be out there to do that, and we'll get those connected, and we'll have an upgrade to the radio system. And the contract has been awarded for the architectural designs for the upstairs renovation. We held a meeting last week to look at the overall plan and what's already been completed and what we need to do in the future coming up here and stuff. And I hope to have a meeting scheduled with everybody involved here in town and with the construction crew or the architect and Assabet School, just to go over questions, concerns, or any issues that might come up. Reminder again for October 5th being open house for 2024. 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. is the time, and we're still finalizing all of the programs and what we're going to be doing there. So I just throw that out as a reminder for everybody. And that is the report from the fire department.
You know, September 19th is when we have our coffee talk, so if you're
Okay.
around, it might be a good opportunity to come do show and tell with the town,
Yes,
so they know what's going on with the
I'll plan on
bunkhouse.
attending it. Yep. Young plan. And obviously, Fia's doing very well. We've had many people come in and see her. I did start bringing her out to the businesses. I brought her up to Golden Skep Farm to get her picture taken up there, and it was their idea to actually, they said it would be a great idea to bring her out to the businesses and stuff to introduce her and get her to meet people. So
Absolutely.
we'll be doing that over the next couple of weeks. We'll be posting that on Facebook just to get out and meet people and get her out there with the public and get her to meet people. And as you can see, she's growing quite fast. So
She's grown quite a bit since you first brought
Yeah.
her. She almost fits her harness.
Yes.
I don't see a badge.
yeah, I don't have one yet because I'm not sure if I'm going to stay in this harness or not, and I got to look at the badge. And I'm also looking at her call sign and what we're going to call her and stuff. Is the
Oh,
yeah. So we haven't quite come to a decision on
Okay.
that yet.
all right.
So
Any other critical questions for for Chief
So
McQuillan?
the first tower done and the second tower soon. When is for Tower 3, like sighting of Tower 3?
So, Tower 3 is when we actually get the federal funds in
Right.
hand,
Mhm.
which we're told could be up to 8 months around, I think Kristen probably had a better timeline, but, you know, it's one thing it passed, but by the time it actually makes it to,
Right.
you know, our purse, it anticipates probably gonna be 8 months.
Okay.
And
Can
then
you-
we're not, huge on building in the winter,
Mhm.
so I think we'll definitely wait for April, May, June area. Even if the money does come in, say if the money came in, you know, in November, I think, based on the weather, especially when
Right.
we're working on the hotel's roof, I don't want
Right.
to.
But again, the hotel's roof is where you're planning and putting in unless some sort
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
study comes that these two
Yeah.
towers are doing phenomenal and it's
Yeah.
somewhere else is better, but.
You know, that's also a possibility too.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I mean, we're leaving our options wide open for the
Yep.
third site.
Yep.
We only have one chance to do it,
Right,
so.
and it's not an easy thing to move once you build it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's no moving it,
Yeah.
so, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of factors involved, and,
Okay.
you know, we've identified, you know, through artificial intelligence,
Yep.
where the best site is that we have pre-existing.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily the best site for us, but it's a pre-existing.
Right.
Anything, Chris?
Via.
How to distract the select board.
Yes.
Bring the dog.
Hey.
Oh my God. So there are another couple items where we could use chief's input on the agenda, so if we could scoot around and then,
Good girl.
after we're done, you guys can leave.
Sure.
I'm totally fine with that, yeah.
Okay. Chris, you good?
Yeah, good.
All right, so the first one is an easy peasy one, hi baby girl, is the consideration of the special event application submitted by Link for the use of the bandstand at South Commons. I saw your no issues,
No,
No issues whatsoever.
might be a good opportunity to,
that's what I was kind of thinking, bringing her
Yeah.
down and letting her get exposed.
Oh,
yeah, because I had a
like that.
chance to speak with Amanda last week when I was reading to the kids, and what she wanted to do was have just something very informal for like new folks who come to town. They don't know where to drop off the kids. Do you drop them off in the front? Do you drop them off in the back? You know, so just a welcome to Berlin, because she said she never had it when she moved in, so,
So these are her questions
well, I mean,
that she may have had.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, and, you know, an opportunity for the kids to get together too and kind of get rid of some of that first day energy, you know, of meeting each other. Dee, were there any other issues or concerns on the bandstand, AKA the gazebo?
No, they were not.
All right, so can I get do we have to make a vote on that, probably?
Yep.
Yes, so can I
Yep.
get a motion?
So I'll move to approve the special event application submitted by Link for the bandstand on August 26th.
Second.
Awesome. All's good. Hearing no other questions and comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. So the next one might take a little bit more time. So it's to discuss the facility study implementation. We've had the assessments for the buildings for a while. We've had comments that I've pulled together and provided, but wanted to talk about what to start doing, especially as it rolls into the second one, potentially for ARPA funds. We gotta giddy up on this. So it's under old business. I know that some comments had been provided to Kristen on the facilities, so I'll take them. And Kristen, feel free to pop in, even though you're not here, you're here. Just kind of take them in the order that they're presented. So the first one is the old fire station, built in '67, pretty much at the use of its life. Fred was here a couple weeks ago to talk about the roof and how he had to give him money for a new blue tarp because, shocking, it's leaking. And then the long-term repair costs are we'll do peg math, round up, close to $500,000. And recommendation from Scott and myself and Kristen was to demo the building. So, do you have any comments?
So it costs to demo the building.
It does.
So I'm just gonna throw it out there that why don't we try to sell it or something, something that's not gonna cost, because demoing is,
So
Kind
when
of
we
expensive.
originally came to this building 24 years ago, the idea was to demolish that building and make the fire entrance and exit off of 62. You know,
Mhm.
as, you know, we're talking back when they had 195 calls a year. We're quadruple that now. And I think, for the cost of actually turning that back into a road for entrance and exit for emergency vehicles, I think would save us in the long run versus running out our small driveway all the time. 90% of the new people coming in don't know that that's an exit only.
Yes, I've seen that.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of like the
Yeah,
driveway, don't
Yeah.
realize that that's the
You know,
exit.
I mean, it's just a matter of time. I mean, they're running,
Mhm.
800 calls a year now?
Yeah, yep.
So they're over 4 times busier than what they were. Traffic light hasn't worked for us since the get-go. There's a grounding issue every time there's lightning. It blew out the traffic light, but that traffic light was controlled by a dispatcher, but now we don't have a dispatcher anymore in the building. Of course, we have a phenomenal dispatch staff, but they're just not here in the building anymore to activate the light. To put the sensor on top of the lights, probably $10 or $15 or $20,000, and that would probably cover more than half the cost of the demo of the old fire station.
Well, and I'm thinking too because the Brown Barn is scheduled to come down at some point. So I don't know if it's economies of scale, if whoever, and Kristen, whoever you're talking to, is it possible if we decide to take the buildings down, to get a quote and do a 3-for-1?
Definitely. I think that's worth getting that price from the same, 3 vendors, even if it ends up being the same. We won't know if there's economies of scale unless we, make that request. The other question I just had for the chiefs is, I know we have been talking about the road. Does that require both the fire station property and the old rescue building properties?
Oh, you mean to put the road in? It was just, they never talked about taking the old rescue barn down. They just talked about taking the old fire station down.
Okay, because I'm just thinking to Chris's point about should we be auctioning as opposed to demoing. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on keeping that land, and I guess I'm moving a little bit ahead, but what I meant was more, did we have to keep both of those sites in order to be able to do an exit? So if that answer is no, then we can hold off on talking about the rescue building for a minute.
So, Chief Mike, if there was ever a fire in the old fire building,
Yep.
would you send your people in?
I would not. Unless there was somebody that.
Unless there was somebody
Mhm.
in there, yes, I understand that, but for some reason, if something went
Yep.
inside the building.
Yeah, there's too much, basically with the staircase and stuff and some of the holes that exist there and stuff, and kind of the structural integrity of the building. There's enough in the study when it talks about the concrete, walls that are holding the building up and, yep, exactly. So where the foundation that it's sitting on, I'm not comfortable enough to send my crews in, because if that heats up, if the roof was to suddenly fail and we had a catastrophic failure of the roof, those are the things that kind of concern me with the crew being in there. They're gonna be trapped, and me getting them out would be very difficult. And it's not worth putting their lives at risk to kind of save the building at this point.
Oh, I broke my pen, it's fine.
Oh, all right, I
That's
just
all,
didn't
yeah.
want the dog to get it.
Scott, any other thought, thank you, any other thoughts on the old,
No, but there's still a lot of stuff in that building that has to find a new home if we
Yes.
decide to get rid of the building, including there's still a vehicle in the
Yep.
basement.
Yes,
that's on the first floor, it's in the old Rudolph building, is in the
Yes,
basement.
yep. That's where the, there's one truck that's in there, but the knot still exists in the old fire station, along with, we have a light tower that's in there as well, that we would need to relocate down to here. So we have some space needs to work out to get stuff out of that building, and I know there's a bunch of stuff up on the second floor that needs to find a home, that belongs to, I believe, the Historical
Yeah.
Society, I believe.
I remember carrying it all up there. I mean,
Okay.
I wasn't part of a team, I
Yep.
didn't do it myself, but yes.
Yep.
So, let's just pretend.
Yep.
That we agree to demo that building. I'm sure yous and Fred would have to be involved in getting the stuff out of the top.
Yep.
And then you gotta figure out what to do with that truck that's
I
in there.
think we should look at an estimate for demo, if you're thinking that way, because,
Yeah.
we're always looking for money,
Absolutely,
so
absolutely. Well, and then
you
just,
might wanna just think about other things to do.
I mean, and then just, lean across to the former rescue building. I mean, it's ironic that Rudolph had to go to the general store because you guys were afraid to plug him in to have the fire department get to the old rescue building on fire. I mean, so is that another one that it's reached the end of its life, that it needs to go?
I think if we're trying to, if the ultimate goal, again, money being a potential issue, but is to have a decent driveway for the fire and police apparatus to get on into 62 faster, I don't think we could have a space that is sort of too wide or have too good of view of 62 as you go out to the road. And that second building is a better building, but it still would block views from that side of 62 trying to go in and out. And I also think it would make it not a practical use building either if you're trying to still get in and out of that road, because people would then park there to get in and out of that building, and there would be a car parked there the one moment you need to run out with a fire truck to get onto 62. I mean, like any project, this is already becoming bigger, because I'm thinking, demo in a road, but you're right, the flashy lights probably need to be moved and upgraded as well. That's gonna take involvement to the state, because it's a state highway and we're doing anything with them. I'm sure there is stuff, and I've seen it's taken us 2 years to take down and it's not down yet, brown barn that doesn't have any of that sort of complexity in it.
Right.
But again, journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first couple of steps, and so if it's a goal to get on,
Correct.
if you start sagging it off and start, okay, here's a barrier to get over, start getting over them until it happens.
So for next step, Kristen, can you reach out and ask 3? Because there wasn't anything else we'll go through the other buildings,
Right.
but there weren't any other buildings that I saw that said, take them down. It was just those 2.
Yeah, I think the main question that you're asking is, are you going to use the land? And do you want to keep the land for the town? And if the answer to that is yes, and it sounds like it is for these sites, then you would need to demo the building. I mean, we could look into, I don't think you're gonna find funding in terms of grants for demo, but in terms of road work, and Mass DOT funding potentially tying into a state highway, that's certainly something we could look at. And so I could try to get a quote for all 3. That would be Brown Barn, which that quote came in at $27,000, so add a little bit because that was from last year. last fall. And then, so, I mean, you're probably talking 100,000, I would say at least, and it depends on what types of hazardous materials are located in those buildings. They may be more difficult to demo than the Brown Barn.
Well, I mean, I would hate to bundle everything together to do, take the buildings down, fix the lights, fix the street, because if it's maybe ARPA money, we can't delay. You know, we've got a time limit on ARPA money to have things under contract, so I'd almost,
Yeah, I go back to getting the quote to
Yes.
demo
Yep.
for all three, doesn't commit us to doing it.
No.
It puts us closer to doing it.
agreed.
I think we are planning on reusing the land. I don't think the project to me is not as exciting just to tear down the land, to sell the land to someone else, or, I don't think personally, I don't want a business at that location because there's not parking and it's too close to the road, and I
Well,
think
you
it
need a
cause
septic and
more.
a well, too.
Right.
And it's
Right.
less than an acre, it's 0.75. So realistically, could you put anything up there? Probably not.
0.75 for both?
Combined,
Yeah,
both are like
combined. That's what I just said.
0.36,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yep.
But I guess
Okay.
the only point I was making is if you were going to sell it or auction it, and I think there are potentially some auctionable properties in here, you
Yep.
wouldn't demo the building.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wouldn't spend
There
the
she
money.
goes again. So, what was my other question gonna be on those? Where there are items in the old fire station, and two of the groups that have items in there are not town entities, you know, one's a Berlin Lions Club, one's a Boy Scout, do we start to get the information out to them to tell them that these buildings are up for potential demolition and they need to get their stuff out, and do we give them a time frame to do so, which also includes historical? Because we can't demo until they're empty.
We don't need to go to that step yet, do we? Why don't we just go through, you know, what we'd like to do with them?
I think giving them a heads up this
Yes.
is coming, I can't imagine that it's gonna happen in the next 12 months.
No,
No,
so,
And so I think they have time, and I think even, and this is the catch-22 we got into the Brown Barn that we're about to get into, I think, with these two buildings, is that they're old enough that Historic gets to have a say on whether or not they come down, and can put a 6-month delay on
Yes.
things. We can't start that process until someone pulls the permit, which I think is silly that we can't have an early discussion, like,
yeah,
because we go out to bids, to say, well, you could be doing it in 2 weeks, but you could be doing it in 6.5 months.
and they're gonna, yeah.
Or maybe never, if you know, this way.
We'll go there when we get to that point.
Yeah, but we need to have all these things lined up, because it's,
And we know that.
Right.
so that's,
I mean,
And I
the
think they're like
details,
them,
I mean, it's not even for us to determine what to do. It's for the day-to-day people to do.
Right, so from a policy standpoint, I think we are close to, like, generally want it coming down. The
Yes.
idea of putting it with a driveway to give the Emergency Services Act of 62, you know, that we start going down that path and see if there's any fatal flaws and
Yeah.
that sort of thing, you know. The land's too steep, they can't get the trucks up, you know, the road not wide enough, we can't get it. Well, driveways already exist on the 62, so it's not another curb
Right.
cut, but I think you're right. We direct sort of Kristen and folks start thinking about, you know, what are the flaws to that stuff? What is it really gonna cost to do that?
Yep.
And then we see where we are with ARPA money and hopefully get something that we can turn around
quick, yeah.
quickly if other projects aren't gonna use the money they have.
If they demoed those buildings, would you have to close the roads?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Yeah. I
so
think
you
it's
just pull the building,
towards the
And-
rear, yep. I think there's enough room behind them to be able to bring them down so that they stay right there and they don't affect the road.
I
okay,
mean, worst case scenario, might have to have a traffic officer out there, you know, for the day of. Just in case if you have to take up a half a lane or.
Yeah.
Or something
whatever,
falls
so,
onto the road, you're there
Right.
quickly to
Yeah.
take care of it, yep.
But I think, you know, I'm sure they're the experts at it. I'm sure
Yeah.
they can look at it and say, you know, we'll take it down, you know, a certain way and, you know.
okay. I mean, so lots of action items with those too. I mean, so Kristen, it's, you know, kinda like back to you for quotes. Mike, I guess it's to you for, for the 2 fire engines, not
Yep.
in the fire engine, what to do with them. You know, do we give a heads up to those committees to say, we're talking about it, because we all know that space is a commodity.
I think Kristen can do that.
All right,
Yeah.
All right, so Kristen, looks like all the action items, with the exception of the trucks, have fallen to you.
Okay.
Yep.
And one thing we're gonna wanna keep in mind is with that potential demolition delay, because we can ask historical and they can give us a general sense like they did for the Brown Barn. But as you said, they won't take a vote until permits are pulled, and we have to have contracts entered into by the end of the year
I know.
that can't change. So the demo money may ultimately need to be a capital request because A, I don't think we have enough ARPA money to do all 3 buildings, and B, I don't know that the timing is going to work, given the demo delay.
I think
Because a
we will-
contractor's not gonna lock in at a price and then wait 6 months to a year to actually do the work.
Yeah.
We'll depend on you for recommendations.
Sure, absolutely.
All right. Were there any other ones that needed chief's input? I don't think so.
No, I don't think other buildings, in fact, were public safety buildings.
Okay.
We're not talking about getting rid of this building at all.
No. No. All right. Well, we appreciate your input on those.
No problem.
So I think you're good to go.
Good.
Thank you.
Awesome,
Yes.
thank yous.
Thank you.
All right. Legion Hall.
I still think under hearings and appointments, we still have other,
All right, so, all right, that's right, we'll go skip back up, thank you.
Yep.
We'll pull them back up. All right, so next up was notice of appointment for Ken to become highway laborer truck driver. So, Kristen, if you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure, and there's a bit of a nuance to this one as well. Are you able to hear me? I know you said I was quiet before.
Yes,
We
yeah, you're
cannot
still.
hear you.
you're still a little quiet.
Okay, let me see if I can get closer. I'm not sure what's going on with the microphone in my laptop, but, so Ken, we did put an internal posting out. This is for the new FY25 highway laborer truck driver position. And we did an internal posting for 10 days, as is required by the employee policy manual. We received 1 application. That was from Ken Patton. We did conduct an interview last week. That was the highway superintendent, Chief Shartner, and myself. I have to say that Ken has done an exemplary job in his current position and really wants to continue to move up and learn and grow. And I'm all about, keeping folks within the organization and helping them grow their skill set. I did tell him that he has to hire someone, or find someone rather, as good as him. But no, we actually are going to do this the smart way, and we're going to, if the board does approve this, the recommendation would be to post the building maintenance operator position, get somebody in that position before we fully transfer Ken over to the highway position. That way we're not completely stuck without any help on the facilities side. And, if it's a rainy day or a down day or a day where there's not as much to do on the building side, he could start to pick up or learn a few things on the highway side. But we would not fully make that transition until we have a candidate for that position. And I would post that right away if this is something that the board is amenable to. So I did issue that notice of appointment, intent to appoint Ken to this position.
I think that's great rationale, and I would move to appoint Ken Patton and for you to quickly post his current position so we can backfill that.
Second.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of appointing Ken Patton as highway laborer and truck driver, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, welcome Ken, congratulations. Next up is the appointment of a deputy election warden of Beth Stores.
So
This
moved.
is a request that came, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think this was I will second.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of appointing Beth Stores as our deputy election warden, say aye.
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 All right, and then we have one more appointment to appoint Jay Teach as the CMRPC Select Board alternate.
And this is the alternate to Tim Wheeler, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so moved.
Second.
I think
Alright.
Jay is already in that position too.
Correct. All right, so any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of appointing Jay to the CMRPC as our alternate, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. All right. Kristen, that brings us down to you for your TA report.
And I would,
Skip it.
well, not just skip it, but she should summarize and be short, one, because we can
We
not
can't
always
hear
hear
you.
well, and two, you should be resting.
Okay. Did you get that? Summarize, so 10 words or less. Speak loudly as you can, and we'll just read your report.
Okay, so I'm gonna skip down to, our projects updates with Howard Stein Hudson, who is going to be working on the Complete Streets Grant project. So we are working on that project, and unfortunately, as you probably saw in your email, Mass DOT is experiencing heavy delays with regard to bridge projects at this time. We're going to be seeking an extension to the grant and are working closely with our engineering firm to move the project along, as expeditiously as possible. But we are still waiting for final approval from Mass DOT before we can move forward with that project. And they have notified us that we need to request an extension to the grant, but that is through no fault of our own. We really are at the mercy of the state right now. And once I have some more updates, I'm going to be speaking with them directly as part of the contract renewal process. I will let you know. I assume that they are backlogged because of staffing issues like most of the rest of the world. Personnel, met with the Personnel Committee to discuss a few job descriptions, including the part-time rec director, which was approved, and a draft energy manager position, which they will be reviewing again at their next meeting. Also trying to take a lot of time to figure out the best way to move forward with the COA Social Services Director position. I've had a lot of conversations with folks and trying to figure out the best way to move forward. The Personnel Committee had recommended that we sort of retool this as a 25 or 30 hour a week COA director position and leave some potential funding for a part-time admin down the road if recommended by the new director. So I am working to kind of redesign that position. On the social services side, we also are in a regional grant that is looking extremely promising for licensed mental health social workers that can help with referrals as well. And I think between referrals that the COA director could offer and the JDP program, this may cover us on the social services side. Obviously, something we'll have to assess as we go. But this is sort of the best path that we've come up to at this point. Recreation is on fire right now. They are doing their summer youth programs using the ARPA funding, and also we're working on setting up the MyRec scheduling software, which will enable residents to sign up and pay for rec activities online. We also met with the Affordable Housing Trust, and we're working to transfer funding to the trust for their use. We're also working to update outdated open meeting law signage around the town offices. And a bunch of us, including the chiefs, participated in a kickoff meeting for the required 5-year update for the town's hazard mitigation plan, which identifies features that could potentially be impacted by a hazardous occurrence, whether it be weather, climate, what have you, and how we would address those types of emergencies.
Any questions for Kristen?
The admin person for the Council on Aging, wasn't that a position that we tried through budgeting and took out?
Yes,
And so I want
so
to make sure this is just not a backdoor way of adding a position that we asked not to be added.
no, so the position was an outreach worker outright, and the discussion, and Julie Malik actually came to personnel and had some really good points that perhaps after all of the research that's been done by the COA, and myself, a lot of the Council on Aging in the smaller towns don't have full-time employees. They have 2 part-time, one that operates at a higher level, like a director level that you pay, and that works part-time, and then one that operates at more of an administrative level that is paid less. And that was sort of the discussion that was had at personnel, but it was not to hire that person by any means outright. It was to try to get the COA director in and leave that funding either for figuring out social services, or whether the need was more on the administrative side. And, you know, I did a completely different job description for this, which is really looking at sitting down with residents and existing programs in the community, looking at what we have so we don't duplicate efforts, and really trying to understand the needs that folks have, not just starting out and creating a whole bunch of programs that people may or may not go to, but actually taking the time to build up a program that works for folks. So I think it's taking things in a different direction, and I, you know, feel pretty good about, you know, moving things along in that way. And the admin was sort of a suggestion that came up as part of the personnel committee discussion. It certainly wasn't set in stone or a recommendation of the personnel committee. It was more just part of the discussion.
And in the fiscal year 25 budget, how much of the hours were set aside for social services and how much for council on aging?
It wasn't, it was just made, it was a $70,000 position for a COA/social services full-time, 40-hour-a-week position.
And unfortunately, we could never get that breakdown of time spent being social service focused versus COA focused, so truly would be shooting blind.
Well, and in the conversations I've had with the COA, and I did meet with them last week, Victoria had expressed to them that she spent far more time on COA than on social services. And I think with social services, that's largely referral based in a lot of ways, and we have to be careful, as you know, personnel pointed out, not to get into sort of the therapy side of the shop, because that's not something that, you know, we should be handling internally as a town. So I'm trying to think, if we combine it with the JDP program, can we cover that need in a different way, but still make sure we are meeting the need?
The, in the last Powder House news that went out, there was a little survey on the back, what do you want to see in a COA director? Do we know how many came back to COA for input?
That has not been shared with me, but that was pointed out at personnel as well, and I'm going to talk to Bob about getting a copy of that.
And since the departure of the director, beyond the what am I going to do with the, not I, but what are we going to do with the digital literacy grant? Have there been any emergent issues that have required you to kind of like stop, drop, and roll and assume the role of COA?
I did give somebody a wheelchair on loan and apparently did it the wrong way. Other than that, no. Peggy Sardell has been filling in for some of the day-to-day, but no urgent on-fire issues, fortunately. And I'm glad we've taken the time to think about it. I don't want to leave Peggy in this position for too long. She is volunteering her time very generously. But I want to make sure we do it right. And so I'm very open to suggestions and having further discussions, obviously, from the board as well. This was a first stab at trying to come up with a solution based on all of the groups that I've spoken to.
All right, well,
Thanks.
I guess we'll just talk to the personnel peeps and we go with round two. All right.
And if you have specific feedback too, like I said, I'll check with Bob. I don't think there was much received, or I believe he would have sent it to me from the Powder House. But I will be speaking to the COA again. And then, you know, if anyone has any other brainchildren that if they want to email me, I'm completely open to trying to make this the best, you know, position that we can, that's the most effective for the greatest number of people in the community.
Yeah, I mean, because that kind of concerns me, is that if there isn't a lot of town input to the COA position, then I think we need to look long and hard at this position and see what is it really for that.
Kristen, when is the next meeting with the COA?
The COA is meeting the end of this month.
Oh,
I don't
during
have the
their
exact
regular
date,
meeting?
but- I'm sorry?
During their regular meeting?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a point of being there.
Great, thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Kristen on her report?
No, we'll be good.
So I'm going to skip going back to the facility study for a minute, and we can buzz through these because I know that there is a person in the audience for one of our new businesses.
Yeah, I'm fine with jumping around.
All right, so let's jump. Let's jump down to new business, because that's what we can do. For a consideration of a special event application submitted by Father Thomas Tokars, pastor, on behalf of St. Joseph the Good Provider, to host a car show event with food and vendors on September 14th, with a rain date of September 21st. All right. No issues. I'm pulling them up now. Apologies for not having looked at them quicker. All right. Dee, no issues, comments, concerns by the people who need to?
Department heads.
Yeah.
No, this one's all set, applications in good order, and there's nothing negative.
All right.
Good.
I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
I will second.
All right. So, motion and a second. All those in favor of having the special event down at St. Joe's on September 14th? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
With that passed up, what is the time for the event?
It is 9 to 1, but we've already asked for
Yeah.
a police detail from 8 to 1, so that the cars arriving, as
Right.
we're expecting a
Yep.
great deal of traffic.
So since I know you weren't here, I'd like to repeat for people who might watch this on playback, it's from 9 to 1 on September 14th. And it's
Correct.
and it will be a car show.
Correct.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Thank you for doing
Excuse
this.
me.
Appreciate it.
Madam Chair, could you just clarify if you're approving the rain date as well?
Yes.
Yes, we have approved the rain date of September 21st.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So let's scoot back up.
Facility study.
Facilities study.
Of course, I've closed that tab now, so I have to go back.
I know, you and me both. All right. All right, facility study. So, Kristen, unfortunately, we've given you the the action items for the old fire station and the former rescue squad building, aka the old Rudolph building. So, on to Legion Hall. Don't have the year if it's built. Looks like it's
Oh,
at the end of its life.
I
that's
believe
really weird. I think the wrong document got, I don't know. Wait a minute.
Yeah, because we have like years built empty, and we know that.
But
And
me-
each one has reached the end of its useful or serviceable life.
Wait a
Each,
minute.
each
Yeah.
right,
building.
which is not true for each building.
No, it's not.
That's weird. It's like it didn't save when I put it in there.
Do we want to wait then? We'll come around.
on.
Or
Well,
are there
there's
any
some we
that,
could talk, like Legion Hall is, I believe, the old West School and one of the oldest buildings in town.
Mm-hmm.
yes, so my question is there CPA money available? Because it is a historical building.
Mhm.
So, with Scott trying to find it a better home and me wanting to sell it, and, Kristen determining, to determine the extent of the damage, potentially demo or auction it,
I mean,
do we go
the
that?
some of it is that there are several old historic buildings on this, some of which we might decide to demo. I worry about the amount of history we might be wiping
Yeah.
out. And so I want to make sure that some of the buildings get some attention. I think one of the reasons we're looking at this is to get rid of some buildings so the remaining buildings do get some better
Correct.
attention, be it historic or not. Legion Hall, I believe, is old enough that it is physically movable, although I haven't been in it to look at it, but that type of construction was something that was done, that was designed to take it back when, every board and every nail was super valuable and you couldn't just go to Home Depot to get yourself another
Right.
box of nails or something.
They're becoming real valuable again, you know.
Yeah.
I see what happened. Sorry to interrupt. It saved, for some reason, it saved the old version and it turned my final version into a temp file that did not get uploaded onto the drive. So I am putting it on there right now as we speak, if you guys have a moment to be patient with me. I was going to say, I didn't put it up there with blanks, but apparently I did.
I'm trying to go through the property building that the assessor's office kindly gave us.
Yeah, it's a 1920 building, and it's reached its end of useful life within 3 years. The cost for immediate needs are $22,300, which is the mold remediation and a structural engineering study because there are concerns about the structural integrity of the building. And long-term repair costs $213,800.
Well, I guess my question is, let's pretend CPA money is available. Let's pretend there's other money available. What are we gonna do with that building? Because there's no point in fixing the building and getting rid of the mold and getting rid of the critters that live in there to have this discussion 2 years from now.
One of the things that we need to address is the fact that over the last few years, we have had complaints from different departments about needing storage. Now, how much storage we need, if we get rid of every single building, you're not gonna have anywhere to store anything. So, I mean, is this building in good enough shape for just storage?
I think with the mold I think you'd at least have to spend the 22 grand to remediate the mold and make sure that it's structurally sound, because obviously if you're gonna store things in there, you don't want anything falling in on it.
I mean, not too long ago, we had people who were actually meeting there.
Right, I thought we voted a couple times to do the mold remediation.
So did I.
So to hear that the mold remediation that we voted on hasn't been done is disappointing.
No, I think it did get done. I think it
Okay.
came back. Fred cleared it of mold and critters, but he cleared it of mold and critters
And then it came back?
and then it came
They
back
found more.
because there's no heat, there's no air conditioning. So when it gets heat dome-like and it gets really hot and then it gets really cold, I mean, that's just a,
Well, I know,
Kill
but
things
there's a lot of homes that don't have air conditioning.
yeah, but you've got circulation of,
I'd like to research with historic and maybe we'll reach out to someone, is that I don't believe its construction was 1926. I thought it was a much older building than that.
site developed 1920 per the assessment from
Right.
those folks.
You're talking about Lincoln Street,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Just making sure you're in
Yep.
the same building.
Yep.
Yeah, it said the Legion Hall was built in the 20s and originally a school. Yeah, that's really about it. Mold was detected by a previous study. Black mold was spotted on the east and west wall
And we own-
surfaces.
And we own the land, right?
Yes. Yes? Oh, please.
That updated document, by
Yes.
the way, that saved incorrectly is now in the Google Drive if you want to open it. I just called it Facilities Implementation.
Yes, the town of Berlin is the current owner of the West School Legion Hall building. So what do we want to do for action items on this one?
I don't think we're
I
at a
don't
point
think
where
we
we have
wanna-
agreement on what
And I
is
think
next steps for
it's
that.
gonna be probably, like you said before, Scott, years, or a year at least, until historical has a chance to even decide on keeping it, or, if we decided to get rid of it. Keeping it or getting rid of it, I should say.
Yeah, I think the critical question with this building is, do you want to keep it? Is it worth putting the money into assessing the building and bringing it to whatever state it needs to be at, in order to keep it? So that's really a policy question, I think, for you folks in historical.
So, I mean, you're not looking at cheap dollars in the analysis. The 3-year plan is for $184,000, the 5-year plan is an additional $184,000, and then a 10-year plan is $195,000. So even if we round and do peg math, you're looking at close to $600,000.
Wait a minute,
Right,
are
but-
you at the right building?
Yeah.
Legion Hall?
I thought the long-term was
Right here.
Well, I'm looking here, she's got 213,000.
Oh, well, I'm looking at the assessment.
Well, long-term repair costs.
If you go a couple more
213,000.
pages, it'll give you the long-term, there's like another chart that gives you the long-term repair costs.
Yeah, down towards the end.
Sorry. I mean, I am, the idea of having Habitat or a developer look at it to turn into an affordable house and sort of fixed up, that pricing, you know, is not out of what it would cost to build something. It would come with character and history to it. If you're not demoing it, you don't necessarily need historic sign-off on demo. I mean, and I wouldn't try to do one of those things, you know, we didn't really demo it because we left one corner of one post up somewhere. But I would see about how you can sort of make it keep its character and make it usable, and maybe it's worthy of having someone just give it a quick look, because the Habitat project that we've paid for and have some money sitting aside for already, that particular land wasn't
On the list.
well, no, the land that the project was supposed to go on was not appropriate for the project. And so there it is, money and a project and a vendor in search of a location. Maybe this is a location.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're looking at the assessment, you've got a foundation in poor condition, sidewalk in poor condition, stairs, ramps, ditto, plumbing, ditto, sink, lavatory, ditto, interior wall, ditto.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
again,
I like the
historical
idea.
building, how much time and effort do you?
What's the difference between the Legion Hall and the Bullard House as far as condition?
Hold, please.
I guess one is a lot older.
Yeah, the Bullet House is significantly older.
Right, and the cost of repairs is about $100,000 more at the Bullard House for long-term.
Oh, the Bullet House has more money already sitting aside for upgrades.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if we're
Okay, never mind.
I like the idea of auctioning it, and someone like Habitat could potentially take ownership, and we could put some funding into it. You know, that might be a possibility if, you know, then you have someone who's willing to take over the work themselves.
And unfortunately, if you're looking at the assessment, then many of the same qualities in the Legion Hall for poor condition are the same in the Bullard. Flooring, plumbing, ceiling, interior wall, exterior wall. So I don't know where you want to try to focus some of the,
I'll ask the Affordable Housing Trust to reach out to Habitat to see if they would have any interest in it at all, and then we can have more discussion after we have the answer to that.
okay.
And Scott, can you find out how that works? I've not worked with Habitat before. When they take a property or work with a property, do they acquire it? Do they work with the town? Can you find out the mechanism?
No, they tend to acquire the property and then sell it to the new landowner. One of the reasons why some of their projects are expensive and why we've been trying to lower the cost for it is if the cost of acquiring the land is actually a significant barrier. And so that's why we've been looking at tax title for lands that we can give to the project that makes it sort of more affordable to actually do in the first place.
Okay.
and-
I think we would still have to auction in that case, though, which they may be the only people interested in it. But I'm just thinking in terms of
Well,
following.
or an
procurement.
RFP process.
Sure, we could do an RFP.
Because the
absolutely.
RFP process was how we were gonna look at the other properties that we're looking to do, is an RFP process to develop something into affordable housing.
Okay, yeah, you
And
could absolutely
frankly,
do
if
that.
there's a bunch of people who wanna take land in the town and build affordable housing, I bet we'd find even more properties for them as we go forward.
That makes sense.
And I think that land that the Legion Hall is also less than an acre.
Yep.
So, the good thing is that you're not gonna have Gigantahouse on it.
No, and we're already expecting, the housing trust already expecting that we find properties that we're gonna have to go through ZBA
Yeah.
and planning to get approvals for it, because that's one of the things is that the price of land in Berlin is pretty pricey anyway, and so if you start with, 3 or 5 acres of land, even if you put an affordable house on it, the cost that you have to sell it to somebody is probably outside the range of affordability, and so trying to find creative ways. And we've been communicating with them a little bit about that sort of stuff, so
Okay.
it shouldn't be a surprise when one comes forward.
All right, well, that'll be nice to see what you find out Scott.
Yeah, I don't think
and
we're gonna solve all the building
No.
problems. I think we're just trying to get sort of what direction we might be going and what more data we might need to
Correct.
decide.
Kristen, on the Bullard House, I know that they have been chugging along with various items, septic and other things. My question is, in any of your discussions with historical, or Scott, with historical, have they even looked at the assessment report and all the work that needs to be done on the Bullard House and factored that into any type of funding that they're looking for? Because I haven't seen anything.
I mean, I haven't talked to them directly, but in my reading of it, I didn't see much on the assessment report that was any different than what they've already known or were already planning and working on.
Right. I agree with Scott on that. I can tell you that they've made some pretty great progress with regard to the septic system. We're working on the drainage, looking at the basement, adding the bulkhead so the insulation and other systems can be addressed within the basement itself. And I've actually seen a significant amount of movement in the past couple of months, and I've been just sort of assisting from the procurement and, insurance side of the shop to make sure everything, we're covered from a town perspective, which is often a pain in the neck, but unfortunately it's on town-owned property, so we don't really have a choice. But there really is movement behind it, which I did not see as much of before.
All right. Well,
I think at some point, I don't know where you get, but exploring how to spin that sort of stuff off. I think you can't separate the Bullard House from the Curatorial Storage Building, even from 1780 Town Hall. But if at some point, is there a, nonprofit that runs several buildings in town and rents them out and does other things, the upside of a nonprofit is they can do fundraising and grants where we can't as a town. The downside of those entities is they don't have access to state and federal grants or taxpayer dollars to do things, and us using those buildings for town government-related stuff becomes more problematic.
I think nonprofits, Scott, may still have access to Mass Historical funding.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, so that actually is a great suggestion, because then if it's not town-owned, you can it just opens you up to doing things so much cheaper, too.
It does, but I don't think you could separate the Bullard House from 1870 Town Hall. If you did it, you'd have to lump the two of them together, and I think that, because they share a septic system, they're on the same land, they share a parking lot, they're trying to divide where one begins and the other ends would get messy.
Okay.
And I think that's out there a bit. I think for the Bullard House, again, as I said earlier, that we continue on the path we're down is, there are several projects out there. Historical is making progress. We have several pools of money already for them to pull from, and let that sort of have its run, and that as we get to the end of that run, we might start looking at something else to do.
How did they keep them separate when the town didn't own the Bullard House?
Life was simpler back then, and there weren't as many rules and regulations. I mean, how did we end up with a septic system that's shared between?
Well, that was
Town
years and
property
years and
and-
years ago.
No, Bullard House.
always-
Bullard House has been there since 1743, and 1870 Town Hall's been there since 1870.
Yeah.
And so I think there's always been messy. I mean, we were still dealing with it even our last meeting. There's still messiness in the center of town about where a town begins and ends.
Right, but there must have been
like
a way that
clocks
they
on
handled
churches.
it before we acquired the Bullard House.
I thought before we acquired it was a rental property, that a landlord just rented it out. They didn't need a parking lot at that
No,
point.
right.
There weren't any rules for ADA accessibility.
But I'm just saying, even the septic being shared.
Yeah, I don't know how they managed to get away with that when it happened.
But I think there are more than just those two that share a
I know,
septic
that,
in the center of town.
that is true. It's even
Yeah.
messier than that, yes,
well, you have a private residence in that mix too, so.
right.
Have we ever had the properties over there surveyed to see
I
where the
don't
legal
know.
boundaries are?
I don't want to open cans of worms.
Okay, fair enough.
I didn't want to say the word septic 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
But there's gotta be something on the property cards that show
Yeah,
the lines.
right. If
That
an
may
oxen
not
pulls a
be-
cart for 10 minutes in this direction.
Well, yeah, and the wind blows, yeah, all right, never mind.
I've seen
Then
property
that-
cards that talk about those sort of things.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
aren't always
Oh, the big
accurate.
tree,
You
right.
have to go by survey.
All right.
And so I mean, again, I go back to Bullet House and Curatorial. I think we need to talk sort of more about what the long term is, but I think they have what they're doing for the next 3 to 5 years sort of already in play. And when it comes to like things that need attention to change their track, I don't think those two need change. The Cherry Store building is the newest of the list for the most part, and is generally meeting some of their needs.
Since I haven't shared anything about the Bullard House and the
Yep.
curatorial building, I'd just like to say that I think we have an obligation to the residents to follow through and support the historical for now. And I think we're gonna find that once word gets around town that, you know, we're thinking of demoing some of these buildings, there may be a bit of an uproar.
Mhm.
So I think we have to be sensitive to that too. Not just that, you know, hey, we think they need to be gone, but we need to reflect on what do the residents want too.
And this study is on the town website, correct?
I will
Not this page.
confirm.
Yeah.
And she
I
said,
mean, I think she'll put it there, and I get that the town website doesn't get to everybody, but at least it's a little bit more
right,
available than,
no, you put it on
it is
Neighbors
right now.
Connect, everybody will know.
Well, you know, I'm curious about the Bullet House because in looking from the assessor, what they provided, it's like 4 current owners to that building.
You
Right.
know, I was thinking that this is such a long and involved subject that maybe we should have dedicated a special meeting to it.
I was always in favor of, because I thought the list we'd pick a couple buildings at a time and not try to
Okay.
get through all the lists.
All right, so then do we want to just, Scott, take yours and just back up and give Kristen items 1 and 2?
1 and 2.
Old fire station, former rescue
Well,
building?
we've already
What?
gone through
Well-
our decisions up to the building, the Bullard House and the curatorial, so, I mean, if there's anything on those too.
Right.
Might as well cover the ones we've covered.
Kristen, question for you. Many of the items in the buildings had, you know, like fix window seal rubber things, you know, replace bulbs, things like that. Is that something that, I know Ken is uber busy and new Ken will probably be just as uber busy, and I know that it's a discussion with Fred. But are those small items that can be picked off
I mean,
as
like
time
new light
allows?
bulbs?
Yeah, if you look at the assessments, yeah, it will talk about.
Probably things you wouldn't wanna do until you got the rest of the.
Right, but
stuff
I'm
to do.
saying, like here,
Right.
like in our building,
Yeah,
or the library,
well, the inhabited buildings, maybe.
yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we could come up with a list of buildings that, like, if there are small things that can be done within the existing maintenance budget, and it makes some major time, they should be done. You know, and I don't think I feel qualified to come up with that list is, but give the general broad strokes that, you know, the municipal offices, the library, 1870 town hall, the new highway barn, the curatorial storage building at least, that would be easy ones. Those buildings we're not getting rid of, those buildings are gonna be here for a long time.
Right.
And especially if any of those $500, $1,000 projects save us $3,000 to $5,000 next year because we get to something sooner rather than later.
Correct.
Well, I think that would be Kristen's job, to
Yeah.
bring recommendations to the select board for next steps and long-term facility plan.
You took the words out of my mouth. If you go to the bottom of the facilities implementation document, there is a next steps section.
That's where I got it.
All right. And one of the things is once we determine which buildings we're retaining, or as Scott said, we know certain ones we are definitely retaining, I do think that we can take the tasks from those facilities study and create a list of small ones that can be undertaken, working with Fred and the new building person.
All right, so let's skip down to, on the agenda, we are down to talk about the remaining ARPA funds and the status of the projects.
And I don't have much that's new here. This is just an updated spreadsheet based off of our last meeting. One of the other ideas that has come to mind is I would potentially like to do a department head training that I think would be helpful, from an HR leadership, how to handle conflict, how to deal with, performance evaluations, writing people up, how to delegate, grow your team, succession planning, those types of things. I do have a quote for that, and I plan to discuss it at the department head meeting tomorrow to see if there's some interest in doing that. I think oftentimes in government, we get promoted into our positions and we come from the ground up, if you will. And I think a lot of folks have never had this type of training, and it would be really, I want to ask them if they've had this type of training, but I suspect a lot of folks have just risen in their positions and haven't had the opportunity to get some of this management training. And I think it could be beneficial. It's something that MRI does offer.
My only concern about that is, what are they gonna do with it? We have very few departments, we have very few people in those departments. You're talking one or two folks. I would hope to assume that the relationships with the people in those departments are good and they can talk amongst each other when issues arise. Fred was a perfect example a couple weeks ago when he said that there was gonna be a meeting because there was some stuff that he had asked to get done that didn't get done, and he saw it and was gonna take care of it. I just don't want to spend $2,300 and everyone sit there and go, yay, great class, and nothing happens with it.
I think it's tailored and specific. It's not like we're sitting and going over HR laws. I have found a lot of personnel issues that are historic, not that anyone caused necessarily that's here now, but a lot of things that have sort of simmered over the years that haven't been addressed, and they're now snowballing, and there is sometimes a lack of understanding or an uncertainty in how to go about addressing those. And I do spend a lot of time assisting with those, which I'm happy to do, but I'd like to also empower the department heads to feel that they can address those issues as well.
And department heads, you're talking beyond sort of just police and fire. Those people, police and fire, I believe get a serious chunk of training as part of their jobs. I think it's the other departments that, because it's not sort of state mandated to get the trainings, are where this, I think, would be the best benefit. I wouldn't exclude the fire and police from attending, but I think it's more for the other department heads.
I think both, but I agree with you. I think police and fire do get more training than the other department heads get, and that's kind of part of the discussion I want to have at the department head meeting and see what folks think. And I feel like the meetings go well and we have a good rapport, and I think folks will share, if they feel like this would be beneficial or not, or if we should spend the money on something else. I certainly don't want to waste the money, but I also feel like, there's an obligation to give our managers the tools that they need to be successful.
Right, and, great.
I was just gonna say, did I miss where the money's coming from?
ARPA.
I think that,
Oh,
and so
okay.
I would more be in favor of this being part of a longer ongoing training plan for staff and managers, and that we find a way to ultimately incorporate this into the budget. Because as a one-off, at some point, these people are gonna be gone and others are in, and it as a good
Not if
idea
the
would be.
training works.
Well, no, but
No,
people
'cause
retire,
People still
people
retire, people
leave.
still
Oh, yeah,
have
yeah,
spouses that go to other
occasionally, but
other
But
states.
the point
and-
is to, grow them from within.
Right.
Kristen, when is your department head meeting?
Tomorrow morning.
All right. So could you put down for an action item maybe next week, 2 weeks, sorry, at our next meeting to,
Update us?
yep, in your TA report?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I figured we'd put ARPA back on again,
Yep.
and I can
Yeah.
update you.
Are there any projects on here, Kristen, that, a lot of them are listed, underway, which is awesome. But underway could mean just starting, almost done, anywhere in between. Do we have a sense of where everything is?
Looks like it's pretty well spelled out here.
Well,
Yeah,
the playground one's the only one I regularly concerned about where
Right.
it's really at.
Because it just
Agreed.
says underway. Does that mean underway, they've talked to people, underway, they have a contract, underway, they almost have a That's what, I'm just looking for clarification on underway, because underway means anything.
It's in the works.
So on the playground, that's been the big one that I was concerned about. I actually am setting up in the process, literally, of setting up a meeting this week. We have a quote, and I'm going to be talking to the company about how it's through a purchasing collaborative. My concern is how they did the procurement and if it matches Massachusetts public procurement regulations or if we have to go out to bid. So that one actually has had some movement on it. Every other one has had movement and is headed towards a contract. The ones that are under contract, if you look at the third column, under column C,
Yep.
it'll tell you which ones are under. But the rest of them are all moving in the direction of getting under a contract. My main focus is on that to make sure we get that done by the end of the year. And I think we track it at every meeting and we keep looking at it. You know, the only other update that I had on this was the voting machines and the poll pads. And I just wanted to share that they came in a little bit cheaper than we thought they were going to. And there was some discussion about the fact that 3 poll pads would actually be more appropriate. So we were able to get the warranty for the first and second years and 3 poll pads for less than the $7,000 that was assigned. It came in at $6,100.
Nice.
So we will have a little bit of leftover from there.
So as it stands now, if all the money that you have spelled out is appropriated, we still have 9,000-ish that we need to find a home for?
Yeah, it'll bump it up to close to 10 with the poll pad money, but
Okay.
as of right now, that's why my concern on the demo. I just don't know that we're going to have enough to commit to it, and we're going to have to kind of play it by ear every meeting as these projects continue to update.
Okay.
Does this include the 2,300 that you were talking about?
It
for-
does not.
For
Mhm.
training, so, well, we just saved some money, so there's the extra 9,000.
Yep.
I think that kind of training or something similar would be good for department morale. You know, you're thinking of them, you're looking to get some training for them that would benefit them as a person.
Yeah, I mean, I'm asking them to hold their employees accountable and to do succession planning and to,
You know, it's a
conflict
word. It's a
mediate
word
and
that
to
maybe they
delegate.
don't even know. You know, some people may not know what that means.
Right,
not
and
the
that's why I want to
department
have the
heads.
discussion.
Yeah. All right, so at our next meeting, we'll make sure that this is just a repeating item, and then you can update us. All right, how you doing, Kristen, for energy? You up to talking about your goals, or do you want to shift it for 2 weeks when you come back?
Up to the board, I can hang in there.
I would just as soon put it on the next agenda, not along with, other items that are gonna take a while, because that one probably will take a while also.
Okay.
All right, Kristen, we'll move it to, whenever we're meeting again, the 20.
2 weeks,
26.
Something.
if
Okay.
there's room on the agenda, I guess, huh?
All right,
It's
do
not
you
a
want to
heavy
talk a little bit about the grant from the, for the Berlin Energy Manager? This came from our Energy Committee.
Yes, as I had mentioned at the last meeting, we are in the process of matching our adder funds to a hopeful grant. We have about $100,000 in adder funds, and we are applying for a $50,000 grant for a energy or sustainability manager. This was at the recommendation of the Energy Committee, and they've done a fantastic job in connecting us up with National Grid, who's actually helping us write the grant for free. It would allow us to have I'm leaning toward a consultant as opposed to an employee, but we will have to see how that works out funding-wise. You'd want to do it for at least a period of 3 to 5 years. so that we could do a couple of things, one of which is become the, hopefully get the town into the Climate Leader program, which is the next step beyond green communities. And, you know, as Berlin was an early adopter of green communities, it would be great if we could get in the Climate Leader program as well, since that is the next generation. I also see it as somebody being able to help us implement energy efficient strategies across vehicles, buildings, a lot of the repairs that we're talking about that are going to need to be done. As we had an energy audit as part of the facilities study, I could see them helping us implement that as well. And you know, one of the things we talked about was potentially combining with a couple of communities to do this, but the grant opportunity presented itself, and so we jumped on it.
Yeah, the nice thing about this, and you know, I second your thought about having a contract position, is it if you're just looking at HR and you bring somebody in, you've got to hire, you know, you've got to go through the whole rigmarole, they're not working out, you're writing down reasons why they're not working out, you're putting them on warning, blah, 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 blah. In this role, if it's a contract position and there's definable, quantitative, measurable goals that you're putting in place for this person, and if they're not meeting it, then it's a see ya, you know,
Right.
for that. So I when Energy talked about it at their last meeting and I was there, I really liked the contract route, especially for something that's only 20-25 hours and you don't have to worry about the whole benefit dance.
Right, you'll pay more for it, and as Tim has said, you see more front-loaded in this, right? Because you're preparing the town for the Climate Leader program. So there's a lot more upfront, and then there's maintenance and ongoing issues. But I think even though you pay a consultant more, you're getting a higher level of expertise. Whereas if you bring somebody on staff for what we'd be able to pay for a part-time or a fractional time temporary position, you're going to get somebody who is less experienced in the field.
Well, and employees will have that, you know, Worcester retirement benefits and our match of taxes and other stuff out there. There's just
Right.
there's more than just the hourly rate when it
Yeah.
comes into positions. And so I
Yep.
think it's actually something that is not permanent. Would love to see as a contractor, because once you have an employee, that position seems to never, ever go away.
So, Kristen, are you looking for an approval on the job description for the Berlin Energy Manager? What do you need from us for this one?
So right now the job description is just in draft form. It goes in the application as a draft, and the Energy Committee has taken, the Personnel Committee rather, has taken a look at it, and they will look at it again. This is something that if we get the grant, we'll go through the full process at that time.
Okay.
So I don't think that you need to have any action right now. It's more if people had questions on the grant or the process.
All right, good. Any other questions on this one, or we can chug along?
Chug along.
All right, so next up under new business is to discuss, potentially vote to sign the September 3rd, 2024 state primary warrant. And I see a yellow folder. That's always good to see a yellow folder. So Dee, I'm assuming that you printed it. Kristen, do we want to talk about this one?
This is just at the request of the town clerk's office. This is standard operating procedure. The select board does have to sign the warrant that gets posted for the state primary on September 3rd.
Okay.
So you just need a
I
vote.
believe
No choice.
I
but
believe
to
I
pass.
included 2 copies.
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
All right.
There's also an intermunicipal agreement in there that's not on the agenda. Is there a reason?
That was on the last agenda, but we did not have it signed.
Do you
This
want-
is the
did we
regional
vote to sign
housing.
I thought we
Yeah,
did vote
this
to sign
was-
it, and I thought we signed it, but there are several signature pages. Do I need to sign all of them?
No, I have it noted with a sticky.
That just says sign here.
Right, all the other signatures are different towns, not just Berlin.
There are the towns, yes.
All right, so we'll give a pause for a couple minutes to get everything signed.
So, sorry, did I make the motion to
we-
approve the warrant? I
Not
was
yet.
just complaining about the fact we need to do it, and not doing it has just makes life difficult if people, we're not gonna vote or something, I mean,
Not gonna
like,
vote.
not have a primary in
No,
this?
not gonna have a primary, decide.
So
Gonna
I
change
make the
things up.
motion to approve the state primary warrant for September 3rd.
Second.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of signing this warrant for the September 3rd, 2024 state primary warrant?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, Dee, we'll stick them back in the yellow folder for you so that the constable can do their thing. All right.
Thank you. He's coming in the morning.
Okay, awesome. All right, so next up on the agenda is the consideration of a one-day special pouring license submitted by David Jamalo, hope I didn't butcher his name, president of
Wine cellars.
the wine cellar, to be utilized at 19 Carter on
September 19th.
September 19th, 2024.
If everything's in order, I'll make a motion to approve.
I will second.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
So happy they're doing so many events over there.
yes, yes. All right,
Now we're down
pass that back to
to
Scott.
D.
The D, yes.
All right, so, next up on the agenda, I think this is something that has happened in Berlin years over years.
Yeah.
Consideration for a special event application for the American Cancer Society Bicycles Battling Cancer, requesting a route that includes roads in Berlin on September 22nd, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of this special event application, say aye.
Aye.
Sweet. And then
Yep.
skipping down to our last new business, consideration of a one-day special pouring license submitted by Melinda Gallagher of Lost Shoe Brewing to be utilized on September 11, 2024, and an outdoor event hosted by the Solomon Pond Mall. No issues, Dee?
No, no issues. Everything's all set with that one as well.
Motion to approve.
I will second.
All right, no other questions? All those in favor of the one-day pouring license for Lost Shoe on September 11, 2024 over at the Solomon Pond Mall, say aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, next up is board questions and liaison updates. Scott, we'll start with you down the corner.
I'm fine.
All right,
Next.
go ahead, coming up the line.
I just didn't know whether the two of you had watched the YouTube video of the meeting on August 6th, where the school committee interviewed two candidates. One was Albert Ganem, and the other one was Michael Wood, who's currently doing the job of the finance director at the school. This would be interim superintendent, like I said. I thought both of them interviewed very well. Ultimately, the school committee voted unanimously, I believe, to, oh no, I'm sorry, it wasn't unanimous. There was one person who voted for the other person. So Albert Ganem will be the interim superintendent. And I assume that means leaving Michael Wood in the finance position.
I spoke with John Campbell, and there is no one yet in the finance position, so.
Well, I mean, Michael's there through, what is it,
Consultant.
TMC, TCM, whatever it is.
Whatever organization it is.
TEM.
Yeah.
Well, I know that they're still looking, so they
Yeah.
they don't have a permanent person in there yet.
No, I knew that, but I'm assuming Michael would stay on until they found someone. So, that's all.
I had two this week. Energy, you've already heard a lot from Kristen. It was also brought up in the Energy that they had asked about our coffee talk, that some people from National Grid would like to come in and talk about the different options that might be available to people in town, like Mass Save, that they just may not know about, or may not know what to do when someone comes in and says, "Hi, I'm here from Mass Save, blah, 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 blah," go by windows and walks out the door. So I told Tim and Amy that I would check to see if it's a possibility to slap National Grid on an upcoming coffee talk, which is September 19th, because if you remember, there were tons of questions on, am I in the program, am I out of the program? my energy bill is high, my energy bill
That
is
was
not
all on
high.
Well,
Facebook,
but that's not
though.
Mass Save.
No, but it was part of the whole constellation or whatever the group was for energy. So just to bring someone here and kind of explain all the programs.
Would National Grid be the one to do that? I don't think so.
I don't know. I don't know.
No, that
But-
would be
They provide-
Constellation or something.
Well,
Maybe
it
it's
all depends what you're talking about.
fine.
Whether you're talking about energy supply or energy efficiency, those are two different
Yeah.
things. They have different vendors on it.
So, I mean, I can go back to energy and see if I can get more specifics, but
Right.
they thought that National Grid, like especially around Mass Save, might be a great idea as we're starting to enter, I'm not gonna say it, that bad season for people to do something to help.
Shovel snow?
No, to do something to help with their energy
Oh.
costs. They were also
We can also
mentioning,
I'm sorry, Peg. I was just gonna say, we can put, coffee talk on the August 26th agenda as
Okay.
well.
Yep.
And I do think Mass Save is somehow connected to National Grid. I'm not sure
Yeah,
how,
it-
but.
Yeah, it's
They're one of,
connected.
they're one of the big funders.
I'll talk to Tim and get some more skinny on that.
I mean, what do we normally do at Coffee Talk? Is it September?
September 19th is the one on the agenda, one on the calendar.
I know, so what do we normally do during that one? Anything in particular? Okay.
I have
No.
nothing right now.
Is there going to be a special fall, winter meeting?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yes.
Right,
And I have that on the August 26th agenda, to discuss as well.
because we might push the coffee talk out a month or so, so it's
Yep.
closer to the special town meeting, as the coffee talk's
Yep.
sort of about the town meeting.
Yep,
Right.
makes sense.
Mhm.
All right, the other item that Energy brought up is that they have credits from the town barn, from our solar. So what they're going to do is probably apply it towards, the town barn bill, but they wanna look at, because we all know how much fun Peg has when that energy bill comes in, the electric bill comes in for that, to try and offset that, but to also look at other potential bills in the town. But obviously, they don't wanna jump because you can only apply the credits once a year, so you can't say, oh, Chris, I'll give them to you. Oh, never mind, Scott needs them. So they wanna wait and gather data for
You can
a
only do
year.
it once a year, huh?
Yeah, yep, so, smart plan, to see what's going on over the year, to figure out where to put them. And then Concom, Highland Ridge, things are moving along, some minor issues, but not too bad. The CSX train derailment over on Allen Road, they're working to get that area cleaned up, which means removing the, wood things that are there, that are building up, because I guess it's close to a stream. So the gentleman that was there wants to work closely with us to talk about removing the silt fence and, removing wattles and looking at the booms that are there and just making sure that that area is good. Conservation-wise, unfortunately, they don't have any other jurisdiction on the collection of beams that are sitting on South Street, but at least they're back a little bit, kind of out of the way. They're looking at some trail maintenance around Beaver Brook. Apparently, tree came down, wiped out a bridge that's there, so they're looking at trying to figure out what to do with that. And then Maddie and her bird program just ended. She'll be having one in the fall. So she was able to capture 60 new birds, 43 different species, and 4 were recaptures from last year.
Really?
I know, so it's kind of cool, because I know that they have some stuff planned for that area up there to try and make it a better bird habitat. So this data is proving that her little net opening and closing and capturing of the bird is working, and then she'll be opening one in the fall. Those are when she usually captures all the owls, so I'll be hanging out in the woods with her for that. All right, other than that, I got squat, so do we have a motion we have no executive session, do we have a motion to close our meeting?
So
Motion
moved,
to adjourn.
or second, whatever is necessary.
All right, motion and a second, no other questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you so much, appreciate you, see you in a
Thanks.
couple weeks.